Dope is kind of a forgotten movie from 2015. Sad, considering it's a pretty decent film. It was sort of an ode to hip hop, or specifically 90s hip hop. When it came out, I loved the film because the main character Malcolm was basically me back in high school. I was really into 90s hip hop, anime, and general nerdy shit. And as time went on, my nerdiness just definitely increased. The movie itself has a lot of nods to the 90s era of hip hop. The three main characters all dressed like 90s kids with the high top fades and the tucked in shirts, and the Jordans characteristic of that era. They even listen to music on cassette tapes. The music they bump, of course, are Nas, Jay, Biggie, and the general rap niggas from back then. When they do listen to modern music, it's more underground alternative type guys like Casey Veggies. Let's get into the plot real quick. So the movie starts out by introducing us to Malcolm. He's a normal ass geeky kid living in the hood, specifically called the Bottoms. It's in California, I think. Either way, he's just a normal smart kid going about his day for the most part. He's got to look out for bullies and gang members that are constantly picking on him. He's got two best friends, an Indian kid named Jib and a lesbian girl named Diggy. She looks like Sid from the internet, but I think every alternative lesbian black chick looked like this from back then. Either way, they hang out, do nerdy shit, and they have a band. There's a love interest played by Zoe Kravitz, and she's bad and all that. A$AP Rocky plays a local hood drug dealer. When they get to school, they're always getting shaken down by some blood niggas. One of them is played by Lakeith Stanfield. Either way, we cut to a scene at one point where he's talking to a teacher. He hands in an essay that's supposed to be a college essay, and he writes it on an Ice Cube song. Pretty typical. That's some shit I would have done. Also, this nerdy kid is glorifying and in love with 90s gangsta hip hop. Will that happen in the future? Like, will the future nerdy kids be glorifying and praising the genius of Chief Keef and Lil Durk? That'll probably happen and it'll be hilarious. He wants to get into Harvard, so he's trying to be different. But his teacher kind of plays down his dreams because adults in the ghetto do that shit, I guess. It's pretty messed up, but that does happen. So we get back to Malcolm riding back home, and he gets called over by A$AP to be a messenger for him to Zoe Kravitz, since, he's trying to get at that. And they go back and forth, and A$AP invites him over to a party he's having. He's apprehensive at first, which he should be because this nigga a drug dealer. His Indian friend really wants to go though, because they never get to do shit and they're not cool. So they all agree and they go. He gets there and shit is pretty lit. There's bad bitches, alcohol, somebody gets their ass beat, and it's all good. A$AP is having a drug deal when they get stormed and raided by some rivals, I guess, but then the cops show up too and the whole shit gets crazy. A$AP stuffs the drugs in Malcolm's backpack and they run away. Oh, and Tiger gets shot. Malcolm doesn't realize this until the next day when he goes to school. His friends realize what happened, and as they do, they get a phone call from some other drug nigga who they think is with A$AP, or Dom. His name is Dom in this movie, but I forgot until this point. He tricks them, and they almost hand over the backpack until A$AP calls them and tells them it's a trick, and to take the drugs to this one other dude, so they do, and they run away and have a whole car/bike chase scene. They get to the house of the guy, and they get separated. Malcolm remembers he has a college interview with some high-level dude, and he goes to his company, but then realizes the same dude is the same guy he's supposed to be handing off the drugs to. So he tells the guy this, and the guy's like, nah, you gotta sell the drugs and give me my money. I don't know why, but it's good for the plot, I guess. Creates conflict and shit. So they go to their white friend, and they get him to set them up a shop online on the secretive, but not so secretive black market, and they sell drugs and get the money using Bitcoin. Things go pretty well, and eventually they go to some Mexican guy to transfer the money to actual cash. He gives them like a hood riddle/test, and then they're on their way. On their way there, they get shaken down again by the blood niggas, but Malcolm is strapped now, so he ain't playing about that shit. It's a pretty good scene too, because you can tell he's just tired of the bullshit and he's had it, and you can feel the emotion and the seriousness and the heaviness in that scene. He works so hard to get out of the bullshit that he's been put in, being pushed around and all that, and he pulls out the stick ready to go because he's just tired of this shit. The blood niggas is like, alright, he doesn't even fight or do anything. But for real, they weren't the most scary blood niggas, but still, you can tell Malcolm was pretty serious in this scene. So he goes back to the big drug dealer guy, and he says the account he set up to sell the drugs was in his name. And the guy's like, shit, this kid just outmaneuvered me. So Malcolm leaves, makes up with Zoe, because they did have a bit of a fallout earlier, for drama and shit. And they make up, and the end. And oh yeah, I think he gets into Harvard, so it's all good. Dope is one of those movies from the mid-2010s that sort of switched and changed the brand and image of black people back then. Prior to this, the hood, nerdy kid was something unheard of, but it was there. Like I said, I was one of them, and I had plenty of friends who were like us, and there were lots of other kids out there like that too, I'm sure. It's just we kind of went unheard of. This movie started to change that, and lots of other movies too. So it was pretty cool for doing that. Nowadays it's pretty normal and common to see that, what with shows like Dear White People and Blackish, but back then it was still rare and fairly new, or at least it hadn't resurfaced yet, because I know the 90s had that shit too, but the 2000s and early 2010s were thugged out, you know. So yeah, the aesthetic, the coming of age story was pretty dope as well. It's a pretty good movie, and it gets pretty conscious at certain moments as well, showcasing different moments and highlighting certain realities about the hood, or being this type of kid in the hood. So it was pretty dope for that as well, and I totally recommend it. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content and analyses just like this. Be safe, loving, and prosperous. Peace.